Hello, guys. So I was asked what exactly were players that one should invest for PvE content. I'm just going to be giving you suggestions as always. You don't need to max everyone I tell you. There's a few who I'm going to say are a bit better than others, and some you might just not have. So I'm going to be doing this between two tabs. The first tab is going to be players that you don't need to max out entirely. You're really aiming for one or two specific skill. So mainly you're going to be EEing them, and then you're going to max that skill and you're done. You can leave them level 50. It really doesn't matter. And the second tab is going to be players that you need to invest more in. If you want, you can skip to the second one of the ones you see in this picture you already know about. So let's get started. The first four are, of course, super bosses. You don't own them. You're not going to be losing anything. It's maybe more for the last 5 COT matches that are really great. And the only thing you might regret is missing on Yanon, because he's honestly pretty damn good as a team buffer if you don't own Curl. Now, the other ones we care about are going to be very simple. The reason we want Cynthia, it's only the speed debuff. Jury is because when they attack her, they lose life in certain COD comps. This can actually be very powerful. Yuri might be just a little bit more of an investment. You kind of want to max out all 3 skills though, and you want to give her a unique, either Ignition Catalyst or EMB based on what you're trying to pull off. For her, EMB tends to be more popular, and you can throw in some pass tones. That's totally up to you. I kind of removed it because I'm trying a few things, but that's kind of the idea. Then you have Hemeritus. I know she's become quite popular. Some people are maxing her out completely. But again, honestly, all you're actually going to need is the skill, decrease defense, increase incoming damage, and you don't need anything else. Vivid Fear is again going to be the exact same deal. Enemy of the position, reflex decrease, they receive incoming damage. Silas is also the same deal. Attack power is increased, so if you're using something like a Miri or a Damien, it's an even bigger buff, and it's going to give them DI. So again, all 3 of these just need a single skill, and they're going to be very important, so at least these 3 should be maxed, at least in my opinion. And then we have Dynamis. Now, depending on how you want to use him, you can max him more or less, but honestly, there's one single skill that matters, and this is going to be Familiar Patterns. Why? You recover 10% of the entire team's life. Now, why is this good? Because when you're doing COI, you're going to realize really fast that healing your team is hard. You're going to answer me, yes, I have Metatron, I have Felix, I have Shu, and yes, that's completely fine. But the moment where you can abuse him, and the reason why you don't need to invest in him is you use him in the goalkeeper match in front line as a support player. So you're allowed to just switch him in, make him do a few passes to himself. Your front line usually shouldn't die, and like this, your entire team will be at 100% once that match ends, and you did not spend a single GP. Plus, there's a cap on the amount of times you can use the GP heals. Let's try to keep those for the 70 matches, not for the lower ones. So this is how Dynamis can be pretty cool. Of course, if you really like him, you can even throw him in your main front line or backline, I mean. And there's stuff you can do with him. He's honestly not that bad if you're not to use him correctly. So that's pretty much what you should look at for the players that don't need a full-on investment. Now, in the ones that need an investment, there's a few different categories, and I'll point out which ones are for which. First, we have basically the Striker Trinity. You're going to have Char, just because that's honestly a great striker for PvE. And if Char is being countered by something like a Dark with a Patricia, you're going to have a second striker who's usually going to be something like Shanti. But if you don't have Shanti, Damien or Lucid are also fine. I'm just pointing out 2 I have built, but Char would honestly be one you'd really want to have for this. Now, the second thing you want to have is a long shot. There are 2 in the game. There's Jean, I think it's called Furion. It's a Wormwind guy. The reason why Jean is better than Furion is because his class is actually leader. It lowers a little bit his damage, but in exchange for this, for a lot of COT matches, it's going to be much more valuable. I can think specifically of a 5-star match where they tell you you're only allowed to have so many players that are not leaders. And by having him, in truth, it really simplifies the math. Not to mention, he's pretty good in long fights and in a lot of super boss fights because he has 2 skills that stack with either an action or with time. So if you're going to be at the very end of the match, 40 minutes in, you're going to have a 200% attack power buff. Now, that's not something small. Plus, if you're combining that with his other skill, you're going to be at 290%, give some critical damage in there, and you're going to be doing something really nice. And the best part is, since he's backline and he's doing a long shot, they can active block him, and your entire front line can be these three guys we mentioned earlier. Of course, if this is COI and you still want to run it like that, don't forget our good old friend Auden, just because she'll buff other debuffs and stuff can be cool. Now, that's pretty much how you're going to be looking at on the striker side. Then you're going to need a bunch of leaders, used differently depending on what you're trying to do, but the ones that are going to matter the most are going to be these three, just because Milky Way in a lot of comps is going to be great at just stealing the ball back, at stacking that reflex, at stacking that speed. Our Mel is a little bit more technical. You want her because, one, the active, it's a pretty good active because it's the only person who has an active that is damage increase and life burn, and honestly, she's better than Janice, but I mean, if you really want to use him, it's up to you. Okay, plus she does have a cool thing that she's going to have penetration and speed for the line permanently, so that's going to put Milky Way on steroids at the very beginning. She's tanky and reflex, critical rate, that's never something you complain for in frontline. So her and Milky Way, especially in certain ones that are annoying, I can think of 5-5 where I use the two of them, and I borrow a friend Curran, and we just destroy that match. So yeah, pretty great. Marianne, this is a little bit more different. It's more when you want to really buff the damage output. This is more used in COD. You have increased critical damage 50%, and you're going to have 45% attack power. But the action speed actually has a lot of value, because as you know, when the 45-minute cap hits, you're kind of beeped. So why it's really great is because units that are really tanky are just going to be faster. They're not going to lose the debuff. A good example of this is going to be, I would tend to use Marianne in midline, and I put Duke in backline with the goal that he would penetrate all the way to frontline, and with this, he gets an extra speed boost around 45%. With my line buffs, it goes even higher. And like this, Duke's going to be just doing more work, and I'm going to be wasting less time. And let's be honest, if you're able to kill a Duke in PvE, there's something wrong with the way you built your Duke. I think mine survived up till COD like 78. COI, but yeah, it works. Just don't question Duke in this idea. Second thing you're going to need is a forward passer. Many matches are going to require a forward passer. The thing is, you need two very important things when looking at your forward passer. One, you're going to need the forward passer to be really fast and ideally have an IC slot. Lin Mei has that. And the second thing is, you need a form of spirit generation. In her case, it's in her active. That's chill. Some of them have them in passes. Some of them you need to give praise sentence, but then you don't have IC and it gets a little bit frustrating. So first, for the really fast passes in certain PvE content, that's perfect. But the thing is, in some other matches where that isn't the goal, she has one skill that puts her out of the pack of the forward passers, is going to be Protection of Ruin. Why? Because it heals 20% when you pass or when you're attacked, unlike most of them. So the great thing about this is if you use her in backline, you're going to heal either attacking or passing. So there's no loss whatever happens to her. Plus, it's just helpful. If you put her in midline, she gives action bar to the midline. So when you forward pass or penetrate to midline, you have a higher chance of doing an action. And yeah, the reflex and crit rate, that's fine too. More pass, more defense. But those don't matter as much. I didn't max this one out because I usually use her with Marianne on the same line. So this is why I would advise, if you're only building one forward passer, build Lin Mei. It's honestly worth it. Ideally, go for speed affection though. So it's the reason we build these guys. Valkyria, honestly, leave her 5-star. I'd say you don't even need to max her that much, but it's pretty cool, and she honestly has some cool stuff. And a lot of only use 4-star matches. She's great, but the real cool thing about her is going to be this skill: decrease the action bar in moving position and decrease the spirit. This is really the best value, just because being able to do this is going to allow you to do some one-hit KOs. Plus, she decreases action bar. You can give her some better units. You can give her some speed. I've seen some really cool comps with that. Not to mention, decreased enemy team's action speed with action bar will allow you to kind of force a few matches. Overall, it's pretty good. And increased co-op defense, again, why is there anything wrong with this? I don't remember that being buffed in, but yeah, I'm good with that. Of course, she does have a slot for a Bond of Silence, so you can recover action bar with a pass. So yeah, you want to cheese it, go for it. Also, please don't use that in the PvP cheese. It's annoying to see, but I counter it, so I don't care that much. But please try use more strats. Then you're going to have the survival buffers. Now, as you can tell, that Kevin is maybe the one I don't care so much about, just because I'm kind of mono-light, so Cheetos is holding his role. Again, be aware that most of these players could be replaced by legends or very strong players if you're in mono elements. Now, Shaman on the other side is harder to replace just because she is a beast of a buffer, especially when you're going to be combining her with a Jiho ace. I mean, 55% max life, recover spirits when people die, DVR, I think, how much is that? That's 25%, so around 30% when maxed out correctly. Crit rate, another 30 something. It's just broken. And, you know, the little cherry, critical damage resistance. Then you start putting some line buffs. It's just broken. You stick her anywhere. Kevin is again in the same style. He's not as OP. He can be used also in frontline. He has more decreased action speed, increase the action bar at the beginning. So for some fast, speedy comps, again for 5-5, when you're using that Milky Way, you're using that Armel and that, I'm forgetting the name of the guy. The Whirlwind Striker that paralyzes when you shoot. When you're forward passing, you're not going to be able to max that action bar. In case you don't know Nabi, that is a great skill to have. Not to mention, he has some good DR just in case, and he has defense and critical rate. So if you're trying to run something like a Duke in frontline, you're trying to run a paralyzed frontline, overall, he's going to have some pretty good value. Now, is he as good in backline as something like Shaman? Of course, he's not, but he does have some potential value. Most people usually stick EMB on him. Now, just a quick note on the legends. Again, I know that most people are not really planning to buy legends right now for PvE, so if you're not, I mean, you can stop the video now. If not, let's keep going. So when we're managing and looking at legends, there are two types of legends in this game. There are legends that you see a very clear, very direct value, and you instantly know how they're going to buff your team. And some don't look as valuable, but when used correctly can actually be even more valuable. Let's start with two simple examples. Jiho. Jiho is obviously valuable because her ace is broken, and she has a vertical line buff that can help the backline and the front line getting out and damaging. It's a very simple version. Now, Nabi is not considered as great just because people don't see the direct value, but the direct value of Nabi is very simple. If you're using a life-burning composition, or if you're doing some micromanagement in COD, COI, especially COI to be honest, she's broken because she reduces healing by 50%. Now, if you're combining this now with an Auden, it could be even higher. But the really cool thing about this is just it's an instantly destroyer because they just don't heal. Plus, she gives 80% action bar. She gives a speed buff. She has a lower cooldown for forward passing. There's just so many things going her way. She honestly has some great value even through it's not clearly visible. Now, Shu, Bell, and Duke, you honestly need one of them. There's a lot of combos that are going to force you to own one. If you don't, at least have a friend player who has it and have the other legends you need. That's pretty much the advice I'm going to give you. Out of the three, the best one for COT content is Shu. For COD and COI, it's going to be Duke. And Bell in one or two of the COTs, though, can outclass Shu in speed of completion. Well, in all of these, Shu and Bell are in backline. Duke is more of a wild card because Duke can be used in certain frontline comps in COD where he's going to excel. Also, one or two of my legendary Duke is the goalkeeper. Good luck trying to take the ball, especially COD 53. We all know that one. Well, if you can't move, you might as well just give the ball to someone that reflects 2,500 damage. You're going to see them fall pretty damn fast, and they're going to suicide on Duke. It works. You know, so that's kind of the idea you could be trying to run with Duke. Another pretty great one is going to be Curl for that team buff. Miri is a broken striker. Askeladd for that forward pass. Alios, that's more micromanagement once again. It's going to be used in frontline to remove debuffs. And if you really build her correctly, you might be able to move multiple lines of her and debuff, well, remove the buffs of the entire enemy team and active on your striker. But again, that means you've really built her correctly and you know exactly how she works. Felix is also great because he can heal when attacking and when being stolen upon. Even though he doesn't heal as much as a Metatron, it can also be pretty damn great, especially when you're on low life. And he has some decent stats, so he's not bad either. Jibril is not for higher level COTs, but especially in the 4-star sets for 4-1, for 4-5. She's pretty great. You can borrow a friend's one, so I wouldn't force you to use your own and buy one. But there's some great potential there, especially if you own your own. Gibril passing back to Gibril, passing back to Gibril, passing to the 2-star. I think you're getting the drift. Then the ones that are OP, of course, Balton, Metatron. I don't think I need to explain why these two are broken. I will give an honorable mention to Bev just because of her action bar creating skills. Those can be pretty damn useful in PvE content, but of course, if you own a shoe, she's pointless, and if you own a Metatron, she loses again a lot of value. And then in the last two, Presti, well, no, not for PvE at all. You should never run that. And Cerestia, well, I don't think I need to explain how broken you can make her if you know exactly how to debuff her. You can make her as a suicide tank. She has a global debuff. She's honestly one of the best when she's PvP, PvE, just everywhere. Just stick Cerestia. You don't need to know why she's there. You just stick her, and eventually you'll see how broken that is. So I hope that helps you guys have a basic understanding of what players you should be looking at in PvE content. If you have any more questions, any opinion, or is any other one you want to advise personally, again, this isn't a final list. This is a few people that I would advise, and with these, you should at least be able to reach 46 COT clears and reach in COD 55. I'm going to say COI 60-ish. Then, it depends on your legend, of course, and how much you're willing to give time, because some of them might require a bit more RNG. So, yeah. Have a good day, guys.